Okay, so I just did this once, and the camera was out of focus. So I'm gonna do this again because it looks dumb. I'm just kind of blurry that whole time. So that's great. I was just talking to myself for 15 minutes, and now I'm gonna have to do that all over again. I will preface this the same way that you know, I don't normally do like, talking videos on this channel. It's not really what this is for. But if you find yourself watching this for whatever reason, go do something better with your time. For 99% of you, I'm a complete stranger. And none of this is going to be too terribly interesting. So this is just your fair warning that this is going to be me rambling for 10 to 15 minutes about my training. So I would suggest that you go find something more productive to do with your time. So I just finished up training maybe about an hour or so ago and came home. I just want to talk about my plans moving forward for how my training will look over the next, 2-3 months or so. For a while, I was following Gabriel Synchrion's advanced 8-week program. Excuse me. That's a great program. I did it. I followed it. I've done it several times, and gotten some good results. And I did it once, starting in like August or so, and then just did it. I found it to go pretty well, and then just ran it immediately again, back to back. And I was in the 7th week going into the final week around Thanksgiving, and ended up getting the stomach flu. So that just threw a complete wrench in everything. Like I wasn't able to train for several days. I wasn't able to eat for several days. I lost, at least 10 pounds, and just felt like complete death, but, wasn't able to finish the program, which was really disheartening, because everything was going really well. I felt strong. I was going into a peak week where I wasn't just gonna like blow the doors off of some lifetime numbers of mine, but the one thing I really felt like I had a good chance of doing was clean and jerking 140 plus, and I've never really been able to do that. I think my lifetime PB is like 138 or something like that, whatever 305 pounds equates to in kilograms. But I've never truly done 140, and I felt like I was gonna be able to do that pretty handily, and after getting the flu, I wasn't able to do that. So that's a shame, but that happens. That's life. You just kind of have to deal with that. 2 or 3 weeks have gone by. I've gained that weight back for the most part and gotten back into training. And I've been looking for something kind of new. I've oftentimes, there are points where I find myself at a crossroads with my training where I'm just not really sure what to do, and I've found myself at that point now. I'm 30. I'll be 31 in January. I've been going to the gym training since I was 18, but I've been doing weightlifting exclusively since I was probably like 21. So coming up on a decade of that, and I'm proud of what I've been able to do. I've never really had a coach. I've never had one-on-one training other than like once. I had like a 15-minute session with somebody whenever I had just started out. But other than that, I've never had really a coach or someone to do my programming. So I'm proud of what I've been able to do just by my lonesome. But I would never recommend somebody follow that same route. Like if someone were a beginner weightlifter and were to ask me for advice, the first thing I would tell them would be to get a coach, because you're going to progress much more quickly with a coach who knows what they're doing than otherwise. And I don't necessarily regret not having done that, because I'm really just a hobbyist. Like I've competed twice throughout my lifting career, just for fun. I don't really have any aspirations of going and competing nationally or anything like that. It's not really my goal. I just love weightlifting, and I just love training. And I want to continue to do that for as long as I can. And, while I'm still relatively young and have a lot of free time, I want to try and push myself to reach the best numbers that I can possibly do. So, I feel like, like my goals would be to be able to comfortably snatch 110 to 115 and then comfortably clean and jerk, 140 to 150. I don't feel like that's just, asking for the world. And I feel like that's completely within my reach. But I think a lot of what's holding me back and a lot of what has held me back throughout my training is just a lack of strength. Like I don't have really good strength numbers. I can probably squat right now anywhere from 185 to at most 190. I can probably pull around the same, like 190. I doubt I can pull. I know I can't pull 200. I feel like I can't do that right now. And in order to reach the goals that I kind of have, I feel like I need to be comfortably squatting 200 plus, comfortably pulling 210 plus, strict pressing 90 plus or whatever. And just for reference, I probably weigh right now between 85 and 90 kilos, probably like 88 kilos if I just had to guess. I haven't weighed myself in a while. And I feel like, in order for me to at least set myself on the path of reaching these goals, the first and most important thing for me to address are my strength numbers. And I've done strength blocks in the past. I've run the Seek a Strength Road to Anywhere squat program several times. And that's a great program. I would recommend that to anybody who's trying to increase their squat numbers. I ran it back to back once and that was tough. Like that, it's an 8-week program and it's gonna, beat you up pretty good, but your squat numbers will go up. Running it back to back was tough. I don't even think I was able to finish the second block. I think I got to like week 7, day 2, and was just so fatigued that I saw no point in trying to do week 8. So, and then I think I started to do Gabriel's 8-week advanced program a lot, which is another great program. Like I said, it's just, it's tough. It's 5 days a week. The sessions are long. There's a lot of volume, but it's worth trying, and it definitely will get you stronger and make you a better lifter overall. But I think that in order for me to reach my strength goals, I want to kind of change my training a little bit. So here are my thoughts. I plan on stepping back a little bit from the classic lifts, not cutting them out completely, that would be foolish, but instead not doing them, 3+ times a week a piece. My goal right now is to snatch and clean and jerk twice a week, where I'll have, 2 dedicated days a week where I'll snatch and clean and jerk. And I'll keep the percentages between 70 to at most 85%, and just do a lot of volume. And try and work out some stuff in my technique that I think needs work, in which I'm deficient. So that's where my list will go. And then the other days, anywhere from 3 to 4 times a week. So I'll be training 5 to 6 times a week. At least that's my mindset. Is I'll start to do strength or hypertrophy workouts. Like for example, yesterday I did deadlifts like in flat shoes. I didn't even have lifters on. Did like 3x8 deadlifts and then just did a back workout afterwards, and got a pump, and that was pretty fun. That's another kind of reason I want to do this is I've got the itch to do some more bodybuilding centered training. I watch Basement Bodybuilding, that channel, if anyone's familiar with that channel, and that dude is yoked, and it just looks fun to push sets like that, and it's kind of like I see Alan Thrall do that a lot too, and it just looks fun. I don't really want to do the running like Alan does, but the bodybuilding training certainly looks interesting. So I'll have that pulling and then a back workout, and then I'll have like a vertical pressing workout during the week. That was one thing that Gabriel had a lot in that 8-week program. His advanced program is a bunch of strict pressing, and I liked that a lot. It it definitely blew my strict press up in a good way. I definitely hit some PBs there, and got pretty close to a body weight strict press. I think I did 80, and then that was the other thing. Right whenever I was like, the training session I was supposed to have the next day was the max out for strict press. And that day before I got the stomach flu, and I was super confident that I was going to be able to strict press like at least 85, and just wasn't able to do that. So that was disappointing. But I feel like I can work back up to that over the course of a block or two with some dedicated vertical pressing training and some hypertrophy work. And then I'll have 2 other training days during the week that are strictly leg training. Like I'll do some back squats, and more likely than not some sort of snatch grip pulling work exercise, and then just bodybuilding leg workout afterwards, and just try and push strength numbers and gain some size, and just see how that works. I don't really have any intentions of trying to work towards any big heavy singles in the squat anytime soon. I'm more so interested in rep maxes, first building a base and then working towards like 5 rep maxes, 3 rep maxes, that kind of thing. Because I feel like, if I can get to a 180 3 rep max or 180 plus 3 rep max, then obviously my squat's improving, and I don't really need to do singles in order to confirm that. So that's sort of my mindset. Pull back just the slightest bit on the classic lifts, but obviously still keep those in the weekly training, because to do otherwise would be foolish. Like I said, you're going to lose some technical proficiency, and I feel like if I want to maintain the technical proficiency that I have now, I need to do that stuff at least twice a week. So that's sort of my mindset. And then everything other than that would just be, hypertrophy and strength training to try and push my strength numbers. So all of this was just, a way for me to word vomit some thoughts that I've had swirling around in my head for several weeks now. The point of this video isn't to do anything other than just document my thoughts, so I can look back on this in several months time and say this did work or it didn't work, and just kind of have another analysis of things. So if you've watched this stuff this far, why? But thank you. If anybody's watching this and has any thoughts, feel free to comment those below. I'm not just super knowledgeable about weightlifting. Over the course of close to a decade of training and following a lot of people who are knowledgeable about it on YouTube, you're going to glean some stuff that, just by virtue of seeing it over and over and over again. But, I'm not by any means an expert or anyone who's got just a huge knowledge base. So for strength training too, not just weightlifting, but so if what I'm saying just seems totally off base to you, tell me that. I'm more than happy to hear some constructive criticism by some folks in the comments. So again, thanks for sticking with me if you did for this long. I don't really know why. This was just me rambling, but yeah, have a good day.